Hello, David Clarke here from DVC Training, and in this second video of my series about BAT Server 2, I'm going to look at the new options of the beat detection, the scene detection, and also AI masking tools that have been added in. So let's dive straight into it. First, I'm going to look at beat detection. So it's going to take a piece of audio and try and find the beats in it. Now, if I come back to the list of options, so the top one, detect beats in music and then add them as markers. That, like it says, will take a piece of music and find out the beats, and then it puts markers on there which you can then use to line up edits. So obviously I went into this, I added in beat detection. You've got a couple of options there, you choose one of them. Do you use the video or a trimmed version? What do you call it? Etc. I've already done all that and I put in beat detection. So what can that do? Well, let me bring in a piece of music, right click on it and say beat detect. Up it pops. You notice I've made it a lot more solid now because of my fiddling around with the settings. And yep, it's finished. A little message popped up down here. Now that only pops up if you have notifications on, and you might also notice this has gone red. Sometimes this happens, sometimes things come directly into EDIUS, but what's happened here is it's created something and it wants to bring it in. So if you see that, double click on that. Do you wish to import the updates? Yep. And it brings it in, and now you'll notice I've got a bunch of markers there which match the beats of that music. So if I was to take that music and put it onto the timeline, here was the original version. Here's the version where it matches the beats of the audio. You can see there from the waveform, you can see the individual beats as it's going through, and it's gone through and detected the beats for you. And I can use that now to match an edit up to it. Now the next thing I want to look at here is the new AI masking that's been added in. So if you go to your BAT server panel and look at the BATs, you'll probably have one in there already, which is this smart mask person, because that gets installed as a default, assuming that you ticked in the AI smart mask when you were installing the BAT server in the first place. If it's not there, or if you want to change it, you can just click to add the entry here. Now I want to find the masking stuff in here, and of course this list is getting quite long, so you can always filter them up here. Just click on this little drop down and look for masking. Click on that, and now I've got something specifically to do with masking. Yeah, smart mask, as it says. Click on the plus button, and there aren't that many options to do with this. So your options are basically a person or an object. Let's choose object. Yes, add the result to the bin. Do you want it on the bin or the timeline, the usual, and then give it a name. Now, because I've added that in, I've got too many entries, so I'm going to have to turn something off or delete something. So let me just turn that one off, for example, because I'm only allowed 15 entries. I can always, if I want to get back to that, I can always turn that on and turn something else off. And I can do that with EDIUS open. I don't have to restart EDIUS or anything. So I can always turn these bits on and off. So I can have lots in here and just turn on the ones I want to use at any particular time. But now that I've done that, I've got two smart mask options in here. To use it, you go to the bin, find a clip. Now I'm going to go for this one here. Let's right click on it and start the mask going. And I'm going to choose person rather than object. And off it goes and gets on with it. So what this is going to do is going to try and identify the people in this shot and then make a mask that I can use. Now, of course, you can do masks inside of EDIUS. You can just go in there and grab your mask effect. So let's get that out of the way for the moment. Grab the mask filter. Normally I put it above the layouter, and then you can draw a shape around somebody. So I could spend ages drawing a little shape around this guy to try and isolate him. Let's do a very rough one. But the problem's going to be, A, it needs to be a complicated shape, and B, he moves. So I'm going to have to go through and change that mask on every frame. Otherwise, it's not going to mask him properly. So what this filter does is to use AI to try and isolate the mask for you. So what it ends up doing is to create an image which is a black and white image where it's isolated just the people and not the background. Now, how do you use that inside of EDIUS? I am going to need the original plus the background. So I need something to stick behind it. In this case, I'm just going to use a random bit of windows. Now, at the moment, of course, I can't see anything through it. I can see around the edges there. I haven't got rid of the background. So what you actually got to do is take your mask, bung it underneath, and then go to the list of effects, go down to the keying effects, and use the track mat. So you put the track mat on the one you want to create the hole in, and it automatically uses the one underneath to create a hole. And as you can see there, it has actually created a hole, got rid of all the background and kept just the people. Now I'm just going to pop that up full screen so you can have a better look at it and start it playing. And yeah, it has cut them out, but it's a bit wobbly. It's not perfect. So I would not be able to use that to take these people and put them in a totally different environment because it's not good enough. Now I might be able to do something to improve it, but it's going to be a bit of a struggle. This is just a black and white image. So suppose I did not want to have this guy in it at the side. Let me just turn off that, go to your black and white image, grab another mask filter, pop it on there, and I am going to draw a mask around there. Say inside that mask, let's have a block color of totally black, please. Now what that should do is to get rid of him. I mean, obviously he's going to move. So now I'm drawing a manual mask. I might have to do some more faffing around to get rid of it. So it's not a brilliant solution, but having done that, he's gone. So I can make adjustments to that just by adding in, say, masks and blacking out certain areas. I can add a blur onto that, which can fuzz up the edges a bit. I'd use the Gaussian one because you can do a slightly subtle blur. As you can see there, it's fuzzing up the edges slightly. Or a lot. So you can make some adjustments to it, but I wouldn't use this to take these people and then completely replace the background. What I might use this for is I'm going to copy the people underneath and just EDIUS the track mat on the bottom one. So now it looks exactly the same. But what I could now do is to come to here and say maybe add in a bit of color correction on just the people. So that's affecting them and not the background. Now, okay, the mask itself is a little bit ropey around the edges. Having brightened these people up, you can't actually see the join because the background is the same as the foreground. Or I could possibly use it to, let's say, stick a Gaussian blur on the back. Just make it slightly more subtle. I mean, that's a bit over the top. But I have got what looks like something where I've focused on the foreground and not the background. Again, done very quickly. I could do that a lot better. Or, of course, the other thing you could do, which everybody always shows off, is that I could stick a title behind somebody. And there you go. Suppose you said, well, hang on, this is 4:3. I wish the thing was 16:9. If you go into the layouter, obviously you can come and say fit width, or you can set your own up, because this thing was high 8 in the first place. It's got flipping back bars down the side, so I really want it to go to 100, please. And I probably want it to go down a little bit, so I've got the people's faces in it. Of course, the mask doesn't match anymore, but that's very simple. Just drag the same layouter onto the mask and on the background. So set the layouter in one place, use the same layouter on the mask, and it'll fit. And of course, I can do silly things like add a motion path to my title so that it flies behind my characters. There's also an option to do an object, so I thought I'd say, well, throw that one on there. Let's see what you do. Smart mask object. Off it goes. Wanting to know how well it's doing, apart from obviously your regular message, you can always look in the BAT server to see how it's doing it. So that's going to take a little while. But once it's done, let's see what's decided is an object. Because the biggest problem with this as a masking tool is you can't tell it what you want to mask. So it's just deciding what is an object and what is a person. As you will see from the results of this, it's a bit variable. By the way, I'm using a pretty good computer for this part of the tutorial. So previously I was on a laptop with a 7th gen processor. This one is actually using the latest Intel Core Ultra with a 5600T graphics card. AI masking in particular does require a bit of oomph. And although it would work on my laptop, I would probably have to wait a while for it to finish. Again, these AI things, they are things you can use on their own if you can set them up. I actually use an AI interface called Pinocchio, and that lets me get to some of this AI masking stuff in its own little interface, but that required quite a bit of faffing and setting up. The whole point of the BAT server is I'm getting into using this stuff quite easily. So take that mask, bung it underneath. This is using an object mask. I'm going to take the track mat from there, bung it onto there, and now you can see, oh, okay. It's decided to do the person. I said object, and out of those two, I'd have thought the big blue box was the object, but no, it's just decided to do the person. So I haven't had too much luck trying to do objects with this, but it's been great for finding people, and for something like this, or something like a bit of color correction, it's a way of maybe isolating the people and doing something specifically to them. But if I wanted to take that and put in a completely fake background, I mean, if you just look at the way that that is moving, the edges there are a bit variable. Now I can fuzz the edges up by putting a Gaussian blur onto the black and white mask, but I'm not going to stop all that chattering around them. Again, nice option to be added in. One of the new options in BAT Server 2 is scene detection. Assuming you tick the installer when you are setting up the BAT server, you'll probably already have something in the list which says scene detection, possibly one that says 50% or one that just says easy. If it isn't, what you've got to do is obviously click on this button here to add it, and then find scene detection in the list. If I come to the drop down here, I can trim down the list just to show scene detection, or I could just look through the list for it. Click on the little plus button to add it in. So when you're doing scene detection, you've got two options. One is it'll just go ahead and detect scenes and bung it straight into the bin. The other is it'll bring open a little tab which shows you the scenes it's detected, and you can check them out before you add them into the bin. I'm going to say yes, open the tab. I want to look at it first. So I'm going to say yes, open the tab, not no add result directly. Yes, open the tab means it's going to analyze it, produce a window. I can check the stuff and then decide on what clips get added to the bin. Next thing is what percentage probability. So obviously this is going to analyze the scene, look at the picture, and try and work out where the scenes are. This actually isn't using AI. This is just using a very clever method of scene detection, which analyzes images. And obviously it's going to get things wrong sometimes. Particularly the footage I'm going to do is this, which is home footage on a Hi8 camera. It's all a bit fuzzy. Really naff, standard definition, fuzzy, handheld footage. So it's going to make some mistakes because there's a lot of things going on. You get the option here in your preset to say how much of a percent you want to choose as a default, but we will get to change that later on. So I tend to leave that at 50%. So I'm just going to go next. Now, where do you want to do it? Do you want to do it in the bin or the timeline? I'm going to do it in the bin and then give it a name. Select next, add menu entry. That pops in a new entry to do with scene detection, which is this one here. So now I'm going to go to the bin, right click and say scene detect 50% advanced, which is the one I just set up. So it then takes a few seconds. It pops up with a little message down here saying scene detection is being prepared. And then it'll open up a tab. In the tab, it will say, right, we are doing a bit of scene detection. Now, how long it takes to do the detection will depend on how fast your machine is and how big the file is. I've done clips up to about an hour. Once it's finished, you'll be given this list of stuff. So you can see what I've got here is a list of lots of different clips. Some have got green lines on, some don't. But this is essentially all the scenes that it has found. And some of them are correct and some of them aren't. Now, if you hang over any of them long enough, it'll pop up with a little picture showing the 2 frames before the join it's found and the 2 frames after. To be honest, that looks like it probably isn't a scene. It's probably taken a wobble or something going on the camera as an incorrect scene. Whereas here, yep, that's definitely a new scene because you can see on one side you've got some trees, on the other side you've got a house. These buttons here will just set specific percentages. So obviously low is about 30%, which it's going to find an awful lot of scenes. Medium is where I've set it in the first place. High means find fewer scenes, so about 70%. But it's the same as moving this. It's just presets, basically. And over here, you've got some little buttons which just change what the list looks like. So if I click on that, it'll make it extremely small and medium and large and extra large. Put it back to medium. Now you can preview the join by pressing this button, but first you just got to click this button to stick it up in the player. So by doing that, that puts the clip into the player window, and then you can come along and press any of these buttons to preview the join. So let's preview that one. Yep, that's definitely a join because it goes from wobbly handheld shot of trees to wobbly handheld shot of house. Let's have a look at this one. Nope, it's got that wrong. Nope, it's got that wrong. Now, why has it got stuff wrong? Because it's naff, fuzzy footage and because there's an awful lot of handheld movement in it. But that's the point of A, being able to look at the joins, and B, just moving this thing around. An alternative to using the slider is you can just press the refine button and tick which ones you want and which ones you don't want. But I'm just going to go by the threshold, which is obviously this little slider here. If you look at this one here, obviously we've got a shot here of a horse. So that quite definitely goes from one scene to another scene. Here, yep, that's not correct, is it? Because that's actually the same shot. And here in particular, yeah, again, not correct. Now, why has it decided that those two things are scenes? Again, it's based on the movement. And as you notice in this one, a big black thing, which I think is just the strap of the camera, whacks straight in front of the camera. So a huge amount on the shot changes. And so it thinks it's a scene change. It isn't. Same here. Not such an obvious one, but still, there's still a big black flash as, again, something flaps across in front of the camera in the wind, which it thinks is a scene change. So maybe I'll take it down to there so those two aren't included. But essentially, it's look at them and decide which ones you want to keep. And again, if you don't want to do it by slider, go to refine, and then you can just tick the ones you want to keep. Now, obviously, I chose a pretty naff piece of video there to show you some of the things that can go wrong. Here's another example. This clip is an hour-long clip where we are filming a drama and there's lots of different scene changes. And here it does a very good job of getting a very accurate result. Pretty much all of these are accurate scenes. And that's what I found with this. It's actually been very good at getting the scenes right. Not perfect, but then none of the scene detections I've tried in Premiere, Resolve, whatever, none of them are perfect. They always get messed up when there's lots of frantic movement on screen. And I think the EDIUS one is doing just as good a job as all the others. Now, once you're happy with them, you click on this little button to add them into the bin. So Bosch clicked on that, go back to the bin, and nothing's happened. This is one of the occasions when you've got to look out for this little red thing down here. You might also get a notification pop up. It depends whether your notifications are on or off. I tend to turn mine off because I frankly find Windows notifications a pain in the neck. So my notifications are off, so I didn't get a little thing pop up in the corner, but I have got this little red thing here which says, oh, there's an update. So I double click on it. It says, do you want to import the updates? Yes, please. And it brings in the scene detection. And there you are. Those are the scenes it has actually found. If you double click on any of those, it'll load it up into the player, and you can see all it's done is set an in and out point on a particular clip. The rest of the clip's still there. It hasn't trimmed anything. It hasn't chopped anything out. It's literally just set in and out on a particular clip. Obviously, with EDIUS, you can click on that thing, so you're just looking at it between the in and the out. But it's literally just gone through and set in and out points. If you want to, you can grab all of that, shove it onto the timeline, and now you've got your entire tape on the timeline split up into different scenes. Now, personally, I quite like to drop them on the timeline because it's very easy to see where there's actually a lot of very quick cuts because of stupid things happening on the camera. So, for example, if I come down to here, okay, so we go from the horse, that's still a horse, that's still a horse, that's a different horse. So those two are actually a continuation of that. It's just found scenes because of this great big black thing going in front of the camera. So I'd probably just delete those and then drag that across so it's all one shot. And again here, all this lot is actually the same shot, but because of this black thing flopping in front of the camera, it's decided they're different scenes. Again, I'm going to select the ones I don't want and just do that. Apart from that, seems to have done a fairly good job. Oh, there's something peculiar. Let's zoom right into that one. Is that a mistake? Actually, that is a completely black couple of seconds for some bizarre reason. And the reason I would do this is now actually come through and split this up into shots. You know, it's one big thing, and I just want to try and tart it up a bit. I want to try and improve the color. Maybe I want to take these scenes off to somewhere else and try and upscale them. Well, if I was to try and change the color on some of these shots, I'd need to chop it up myself. It's a lot easier to do the scene detection, pop it on the timeline, and then I can literally select all of them, go to the color correction, and I'm just going to pop the auto color corrector on all of them, which has, you know, just individually gone through and tried to improve those a bit. And then, of course, I can put a primary color corrector on individual clips if I want to and start fiddling with that. But the whole point is, as this thing's one lump in the first place, I'd have to go through and find those joins, which is incredibly tedious. Scene detection finds them for you, bung them on the timeline, and then you can do things per clip. And I've used this an awful lot, primarily in old footage, old analog stuff, things like that. It's all come in, it's one big lump. I want to split it up. So that's what I'm using this kind of stuff. And in addition to color correction, of course, I can take all these things and I can use a clip cut on them, so I can make them to individual files. I could do things like deinterlacing them. I tend to do the clip cut first and then the deinterlacing. And then I take them into Topaz, obviously, because I own Topaz. But you could also use something like the AI Upscaler, which is an option in BAT Server 2, which I'll talk about in another video. Now, in the third video in this series, I'm going to look at specifically speech-to-text for subtitles and that sort of thing, and the text-to-speech options that have been added in BAT Server 2. Speech-to-text was there before. All these text-to-speech is new, and of course things have been updated a bit. So that'll be in the third video in this series. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video pops up. Visit the website www.dvctraining.co.uk, and I'll see you next time.